It's Business Connections Live. It's program number 43. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about SEO. Already, I can imagine it, the words SEO above your head. SEO, what does it mean? Search Engine Optimization is probably one of the most important things that you've got to do to your business website to make certain it's working for your business. Remember what we've said about business websites in the past. Your website is part of your marketing campaign, and to make absolutely certain that it is getting you the most benefit from it being there, it needs to be properly SEO'd. My guest tonight is Mark Rouvray. He's the SEO expert who's joining us tonight, and he's going to be talking about how small businesses can raise their ranking in the Google search engine results simply through search engine optimization. Mark, it's great to have you with us this evening. Just how important is search engine optimization?
Fundamentally, it's two parts to it. It's making sure that your website is clear to Google as to what it's all about. What does your website fundamentally give to people? And secondly, it's promoting that website across the internet so that you are seen by Google as having a good reputation for those key search terms.
Now, a lot of the time, isn't it, that when it comes to SEO, it's a bit of a movable feast, isn't it? Because Google, God love them, they change the way that they actually look at the different websites, don't they? And they change their rules, they change the criteria, and that's why SEO isn't a one-off feast, is it? You've got to keep doing it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a number of reasons why you've got to keep going at it. Firstly, you know, it isn't as, unfortunately, it's sold as often something that's a miracle cure, some kind of silver bullet that can be applied to your website, and that's just not the case. There are, I often say to people, 1,001 things you can do, all of which will incrementally improve your search engine optimization. And it's important to keep that going over a period of time, not as a one-off exercise. So it's not a once and done type of exercise that you can do. There are some fundamentals which I'm sure we'll get to in terms of how you approach it and how you get things set up correctly. But beyond that, yes, you have to keep working at it. And you're absolutely right. Google do move the goalposts every now and again, is how I like to describe it.
Because the most recent is Penguin or something, isn't it?
Yeah, so fundamentally each couple of times each year, you'll find that Google will do a major release which will have an impact on search engine rankings, and some of the biggest companies like Amazon can get caught out by those releases and suffer their rankings as a result.
And let's be clear then, when we talk about rankings, this is the position that you are on the search pages, so everybody, I suppose, is trying to get to the top of the first page. And let's just describe the first page of Google as well, for that matter.
Yeah.
The top couple of ads sometimes are paid for.
Yes.
The ones down the right-hand side are also paid for,
right.
aren't they? These are paid per click, aren't they?
Yeah, so that's
but the core ones, the actual organic ones, are those central ones, and that's where you want to be, isn't it?
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is the natural or organic search results, those that are not those paid ones at the top or at the side, as you've just described it. You know, that is a different way of getting to the top, and we might touch on that and the advantages and disadvantages of that approach. And there is some similarity in the skills and effort that you need to apply in both of those. But yes, we're fundamentally talking about those organic search results. Fundamentally, it takes longer to get there through search engine optimization than the pay-per-click route, which can get you there very quickly. But it has advantages and disadvantages which we can come to.
Now, there's a lot of people out there that claim to be SEO experts, and you can very easily be caught out because, as I said, you know, a lot of people come along, they'll claim they can do all sorts of things to your website, they'll take their money and then you don't see them again. I mean, so give us a little bit of your background. And now you have a franchise that you operate, but you also run your own business, surreywebdesigner.co.uk.
Yeah, it's part of the franchise, and actually the surreywebdesigner.co.uk website is part of my own efforts to improve my local search engine optimization.
Right.
So we have a national presence with active web design, but the work I do allows me through that website to improve the search engine optimization for local searches in my area. So essentially what I do for my own website is exactly what I'm doing for my clients. And you're absolutely right, there is, and this is one of the battles that we have, is that people do get bamboozled by some of the technology and some of the spin that is provided by people who often most small businesses will tell you, I've probably had a phone call from somebody who says, I will get you to the top of Google. And really anyone who says that, they should be wary of, because fundamentally there are no guarantees in this business, and anyone offering a guarantee is really not genuinely likely to be able to achieve that. And I always say to people when they say, well, why can't you guarantee it? Well, there's two things to think about here. Firstly, I say to them, have you got any competition? And of course, unless you are incredibly specialised, and there's very few of those, everyone's got competition. Mm-hmm. And you can't control your competition. So ultimately, if your competition is spending more money, doing more on your SEO, they are likely to be ahead of you in the game. And certainly big companies, will spend a lot of money on their SEO. But we're talking about small companies here who can make a difference with the objectives that a small company has, which is to be found locally often for the services and products.
I mean, we've talked previously on the program about local SEO, and it seems to be that if you can identify what that your website is working within the local area, and therefore, because Google obviously knows where the searches are, it knows from the IP address, it knows where physically the computer that is searching actually is in the world, so therefore it can do a search radiating out from that point to get local businesses for that particular search.
Yeah, so when somebody searches on Google, there are a number of things Google will look at, and you're quite right, they will look at the IP address to offer them the local results for their area.
Is that why in your particular web address, and I would imagine you probably use it in your tags and your keywords, the for a start, the definitive, the Surrey web designer. So Surrey actually placing it somewhere. Having
Surrey there helps with that. I mean, the main, in my local area, which is kind of Kingston, Wimbledon, and there are other areas around there like Rains Park, New Malden, those are all the areas that I want to get business from. And I have pages dedicated to those areas with my portfolio for those areas and with testimonials for those areas. So when somebody lands on the page, whether it's web design in Rains Park, they will see a page of other businesses in that local area. So the page has been optimised for that location.
So is it wise then, or is it worth, for instance, if we'll use the word that's down the right hand corner, say you're chat.com, is it worth then looking to see if the domains for chatlondon.com and chatbirmingham.com and chat Manchester, is it worth getting those domains as well? Okay, so often people ask me should I get keyword rich domains? They don't actually help you with your SEO unless you're actually going to build sites and put content on them. So just having the domain name in its own right doesn't work. But you could go down the route, yes, of creating lots of satellite websites with that. But I've not done that. You can do that and it will help, but again, it's not really achievable for most small businesses to actually create so many different websites. But what they can do is set up a structure within their website whereby they have specific pages for the kind of products and service niches that they may offer or the locations that they may operate in. And that's exactly what I've done through my site, and it's what I try and do for local businesses. But the starting point for that is, okay, what kind of business do you want to attract? Now, you mentioned London, and a common mistake that people make is to actually say, well, I'm interested in London. I want all the business in London. Well, realistically, as a small business, London is probably the population, I think 30 million or something like that. It's the population of a small country like Belgium. So as a small business, you're not really targeting the whole of London. You are trying to put up business in your own local area and the surrounding area. And realistically, people searching for a plumber in northeast London are unlikely to pick a plumber that they happen to, even if they happen to find you in southwest London. Knowing the kind of job that you do is quite transportable, isn't it? It nearly can be done remotely, can't it? Your business is a bit different from,
absolutely.
It's providing those services and providing a physical service as well, for that matter.
Yes, it is, but actually one of the key parts of our service is that we're actually dealing with a lot of people face to face. There is a lot of web design, it's done internationally, you can get web designers from anywhere. The reason we find small businesses deal with us is because we're local and can provide a local face to support.
Apart from maybe going to somebody that someone has contacted you. We all get the emails. They're nearly as bad as there's £1 million sitting in a bank account. Please, will you help me transfer it? The other email you get a lot is, I can SEO your website. I've been looking at your website. What do you think the big mistake is that businesses make when it comes to SEO in their website? It's the fact that they don't take into consideration keywords? Is it that they don't bother with SEOing at all? I mean, when you go along to a site, what is the biggest fault that you see on an ongoing basis?
Probably the biggest fault is that people haven't thought about what the key marketing terms are for their business before they've started. So most people have obviously thought about the marketing of their business. They've thought to some extent about their target audience, their customers. But when it comes to the construction of their site, they need to actually work through, well, what are the key terms that I want to be found for? And if they've actually done that and they've come up with those, then the actual construction and development and the content of the site all follows from that. The most common mistake you'll find on a website is that on the home page, and this is always an indication to me that people probably haven't thought about the SEOs, it will say in big letters, "Welcome to my website." And then what you've actually done, have a look now. What you've actually done is told Google that the most important words on this page are welcome and website.
No, that's all right. We don't.
You're covered on that. Okay. Excellent.
Just checking there, just for a moment. But it's interesting because the other thing that a lot of people do on their front pages is that they will go, we've been established since 1953, we have 400 employees, we have a whole range of different vans and vehicles, and we've been in existence for diddly bomb, but it's, you know, I haven't ever searched to find out how many people work for a business. All I want to know is whether they sell me widgets or not. And if they sell me the widgets, then I'm going to find their site for a start. But if your website is one of those sites that's all about, well, it's the Me Too stuff. It's all about me,
Absolutely.
me first, and then I'll tell you about what I can do for you. Remember, your website, and this is a bit, I suppose, that I've learned over the years, it is part of your true marketing campaign. And Absolutely. It's about maybe setting your proposition out there, setting your storefront. You know, if you're a greengrocer, you know, we sell the finest apples as opposed to we are a greengrocer that's been established since 1923. They're not interested in how long you've been established. They're looking for whether you sell apples or not. And there is that kind of thing that you're going to take into consideration.
I mean, there's an element of that, but it plays a role within that whole process of people looking at your site and taking them through the path which will hopefully make them pick up the phone or visit you. It plays a role, but you're absolutely right. The most important thing that people are looking for when they land on a website is, does it provide benefits and solutions that I'm looking for?
So briefly then, just before we get into the nitty-gritty of what is going on, I mean, it's been very interesting so far. I mean, it's been worth watching just for the 10 minutes to get a kind of feel to it. Active, who are the name that is actually sitting on your web page there, Active Web Design. That's a franchise that you have. So what do you actually offer? You offer complete web design. It isn't just SEO.
Yeah, so we'll do the websites. So we create websites for small businesses, e-commerce, online shops for small businesses, but we are effectively a net marketing company. So we provide all the kind of online marketing services, including search engine optimization, but other things like mobile websites and even apps as well.
And even though this is a franchise, do you SEO that web space?
Yeah, so I am working using the same tools and processes to SEO that website. So I built it in the same way that I would for any client in terms of who I'm working with, and we are SEOing it in the same way to improve that as we go along. It's a relatively new approach that we're doing because traditionally we've had the Active Web Design franchise, and so the Surrey Web Designer site is actually relatively new, but it is actually that same approach.
I've just Pinterested you. I've done a little bit of social media while the programme's been on. All right, listen, we'll come back and we'll start talking about the real nitty-gritty. If you're feeling that your site, maybe we'll identify when and how to identify whether your site is properly SEO'd. Maybe that's a good starting point, perhaps. If you've got a website and you're expecting business from it. I was talking to somebody a little while back. They ran a business and they were doing no SEOing on the website, but what they were doing, everything, all their marketing of their brand and their product was on pay-by-click or pay-per-click. And I thought maybe a little bit of both would have been a better spend of money as opposed to spending a lot of money on pay-per-click. We'll come back to that in just a moment. My guest is, this evening is Mark Rouvray, and we're talking about SEO for small to medium-scale businesses. In fact, for any business. You go onto anybody's website, start asking a question, how did I find it? How did I get here? And does this site, when I get to it, actually answer the reasons that I was searching for it in the first place? It's well worth thinking about. On last week's programme, we had a great chat. We were talking all about Facebook last week, and we had Mark Hughes. He joined us on the programme. It was an absolutely cracking insight into what you should be doing with your Facebook. There was one line that Mark came up with. It was, why do I care to share? It's all about driving audience to your website, driving audience to your Facebook page, and then making certain that they interact with you and they do something with you, and therefore hopefully drive traffic across your Facebook site, and hopefully will drive traffic back to your main site so that you can actually see some results, collecting information, collecting data. If you didn't catch the entire program, it was a real cracker, as they all are. So I tell you what, why don't we catch up on what happened in last week's edition of Business Connections Live. My guest tonight is Mark Hughes. How do you produce targeted organic content for your business Facebook page? Why do I care to share?
The overview really is how to produce content for your Facebook page, but it can go in an extension. It's how to produce content organically that resonates with your audience on all your social platforms. The largest growing segment of people using Facebook these days are 34 to 55-year-olds. You know, as many as 76% of business owners are now using Facebook for business. I find a lot of, especially the smaller, well, not just the smaller, but small and medium business owners, they make the mistake of producing content that they think their audience will find interesting. 10-for-1 is, it's 15 posts in all based around that theme. 10 are fun, 4 are informative, so that's how-to, tips, advice, and then the 1 is that money post, and that's the post that goes out to her offer. I mean, my favorite word in any kind of online marketing, not just Facebook, is test, 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 test. And you've got insights, which are like your statistics that Facebook give you, for you to check out what's resonating with your audience or not. So that's one of the things that I would look into and say, right, who am I reaching? It shows you the age group, it shows you how the post is being received, and then you say, right, okay, that one's being received quite well. It reached people, a couple of people commented, shared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replicate or duplicate more like that. Facebook is really, it's a phenomenal way for, as you say, potential prospects to come and check you out. The first couple, we're obviously going to just get into the demographic data, which a lot of business owners will know. It's you know, the age group, single, married, educated to what level. A very brief avatar that I've done.
Oh, this is Phil and Sarah.
Yes, Phil and Sarah, as you say. So male or female, because I do have the ability to have a caveat of both genders. I would say if you can have that one person, so male or female,
right.
So it just niches it out, but you know, it's not always possible in most businesses. So male or female, and then obviously the big difference is I would also be writing content that would be for each of them. A lot of business owners will say to me, well, where do I find the content? You know, I'm not a creative agency that I could just snap content out of the air or put a content writing team together and suddenly we produce this massive big content plan and strategy and etc, etc. All I need is a bit of content that is at least going to be received well. What I'm trying to find out now is other pages on Facebook, fan pages, business pages, and what are they putting out to their
So once again, we're replicating what other successful businesses are doing.
Exactly. Couple of key takeaways. Make sure, first and foremost, before you do anything, I don't care whether you've been in business for 10 years or 10 minutes, do your customer profile, know exactly who your audience is that you want to talk to, and make sure that based on that, you now start creating content that resonates and it's going to be well received. And more importantly, that's written for your target market, because when you do it that way, they're more likely to actually share it with their network. And hey, that gives you more exposure. get targeted, and pay attention to your insights, to your statistics, because there's no point putting content onto your Facebook page day in and day out if you don't know whether it's working or not. So profiling, good content, and statistics. Good luck with that.
Fascinating show last week. Mark Hughes, a great guy, and he will be joining us again in the future on other programs. But if you're not using your Facebook page for business at the moment properly, then that's the program to watch all the way through. And if you do have a Facebook page at the moment, or maybe you don't have a Facebook page, remember, small businesses, the big news at the moment, and we can vouch for this, the big news is using social media to get out there and to talk to people. Don't expect huge differences, but what we see is that if we have a guest that comes on our program and they use social media to promote the fact that they've been on the program, maybe using everything from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, we will see an increase in the number of views of that. Social media, when used in the right context, really is very, very powerful. For instance, if you saw Steve Mills, well, in fact, if you go onto our website and see Steve Mills with his LinkedIn masterclass, and there's the website, by the way, on the YouTube channel, there's nearly, well, it's going well on its way now to 4,000 views. So a lot of people, a lot of interest in LinkedIn, but the reason there's so much interest in it is because he's used social media, he's used LinkedIn, he has promoted that particular program to get the results that he's now achieved. So well done to Stephen. Maybe you should be using your social media like that. And we'll be hearing from Nikki Creel a little bit later on when she talks a little bit about Twitter and how you can leverage that in your business. As I said, my guest this evening is Mark Rouvray. We're talking SEO. All right, let's go for the fundamentals. I mentioned just before we saw Mark that really it's identifying whether your site needs SEOing or not. And I would imagine all sites probably to some degree need SEOing and can benefit from it.
Yeah, I mean, the fundamental point of starting is really, are you being ranked for the things you need to be found for? If you're not, then clearly you've got an issue, because you can have the best website in the world, but if nobody's actually finding it, then you've got a problem.
How do you know? I mean, is it a case of putting your keywords in and then finding that you do come up in the ranking and seeing how many pages back you are?
Yes, but you have to be a little bit, that's one way of doing it. There are tools freely available on the website, on the internet, where you can look. They're called SERP tools, for search engine ranking positions, and they will allow you to put in your domain name and the keywords that you want to be found for, and it will give you back the ranking positions that you're currently achieving. There is an issue for a lot of people if you start searching yourself, because depending on your own settings, you may actually be influencing the results that you're seeing. So the results you get individually are not as objective as the true position that other people might actually get. So often people say to me, oh, well, I seem to be doing really well. And I say, well, that's because you're always looking at your own website, and you're already searching in your own area for things, and that Google takes account of. You can actually change your preferences with Google, but most people don't, so therefore you're influencing your own results. So to get proper objective results, use a tool which gives you search engine ranking positions.
Now, there are free tools available
yes,
and
people can
Google themselves supply tools for that, don't they? Are they the best ones to be using?
So the standard tools, as long as they are providing those ranking, objective ranking positions, they're fine. They will give those. And obviously, again, if you're using an SEO service, one of the things that you would expect back from that SEO service is a report each month on where you're ranking, because overall, what you're judging your SEO or SEO service is it improving my search engine rankings for the terms that we're actually targeting?
What about the length of time it actually takes for anything to happen? Is it something that happens overnight if you get the keywords right? Or is it something that takes a little bit of time?
Well, again, I think there's a lot of confusion for people, because, again, the way that SEO is promoted, as if it is something that can happen very, very quickly. In reality, it does take time to actually achieve results with SEO. How quickly you can achieve them obviously depends, again, upon what are you trying to be ranked for. If you are a large company, double glazing company, trying to be #1 nationally, then it's going to take a tremendous amount of effort, and your budget needs to be several £1,000s a month to achieve that. But if you are a glazier...
But what are you spending several £1000s on then?
Okay, so I wouldn't advise that for a small business.
No,
it's not
but if
necessary.
you were a large organisation,
okay, so
what are they spending it on?
Well, then, for those big businesses, they are looking at bespoke strategies around exactly what is that company trying to achieve. So it's tied in with their business planning, their marketing plan for that company, their specific objectives. And then it's analysing all the competition, exactly what they're doing, their websites, and how they're promoting themselves online. And it's coming up with a strategy to compete with those.
So is it more than keywords then? Is it that you're not using keywords there? I mean, what is it that, is it a case of doing a combination of pay-per-click or okay. What are you doing to actually...
So the SEO is obviously different. So the pay-per-click, so maybe it's worth just clearing that up for people. Pay-per-click is done on a basis of it's advertising, it's done through Google, and your position in those adverts, which are at the top of the page or at the side, is mainly determined by the amount that you bid and your budget for where you want to be. So, for instance, web design nationally probably would cost you about £3.50 a click. But if you want to be found locally, as I do in the local area, it's more likely to be 70p a click. So again, in terms of your aspirations, if you're competing nationally, it's obviously going to cost you more money. Just
have a quick look at a normal... We've all seen this. We've all looked. I've just put in the word web design up there. And Google's gone away and actually searched for web space design. Now, the top three, these ones here, that one, and that one, they're all paid for, aren't they?
They're all paid for, and so are the ones down.
And so are all these ones over here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where you really want to be for your business. Is this where, and I use the term, and I don't want us to go off on a tangent too quickly, but when it comes to using keywords, is this where we start using this expression long tail? Key phrases and keywords.
So what a small business really needs to do is say, okay, I can't compete nationally, I don't have that kind of budget, and actually I'm not looking for business across the whole country, I am looking at it for my area. So that's where you start to say, if it is web design, you start to think about the locations you want to be found for.
So that would be more powerful if you were based in, shall we say, if you were based, a local town to here, Shepperton.
Yes.
That would be more powerful, but local SEO to be saying web design, Shepperton.
Yes, and don't forget, Google knows if people are in the Shepperton or local area.
And this computer's close enough to that.
Yeah, so if you put in web design, it should start picking up some of the local as well.
We'll have a look. I'm just interested now.
And if it doesn't, that's where people tend to use the term.
And what's interesting now is that it's now coming up at some of the long tail expressions that people are asking for. So it might be better to do sort of Shepperton web design course. You've got agency there as well.
Yeah.
And this is what we mean by long tail, isn't it?
Yes.
It isn't just those keywords. It's a complete sentence that we're looking at. Let's go. We'll just stick with web design Shepperton and see what we get. So we've still got at the top of the page, we've got these ones here. And where's that? See, that's Ascot, so that's down the road from us.
So they will have geared their adverts up probably to that location as well.
And then we've got one here that says locally as well, for that matter. And yes. So that is a local one. That is a proper local one.
That's a directory site that has a page for Shepperton. So
indeed, yes, web design. Yep, locally.uk. Yep.
And that's often what you get, and often you will find the business directories like Yell, because they will have a location-based page, and they will come up. And that's why obviously a lot of local businesses will go to people like Yell as a way of getting themselves quickly somewhere into the reckoning in terms of searches. The downside obviously for a small business is then you're going to Yell, and of course that's where all your competition are as well. So ideally you want your website up there, so people go to your website, they don't look at some of the online competition, and once you're on your website, that's where your website takes over and does the job for you, hopefully.
All right then, so let's go for the first thing that we need to remember then. It's going to be keywords, be them long tail keywords or keywords in their own right.
Yeah.
The best way to identify those is to sit back and think what your business is all about. Location seems to be a big help.
Yes.
But you're looking at maybe location and what the widget is that you sell and what the benefit for the widget is.
Yes, in terms of, so I mean, for instance, you might, if you're an acupuncturist, some people know that they're looking for an acupuncturist, they know what they do, and therefore they'll use the word acupuncturist or acupuncture treatment, those types of words. However, other people are looking for benefits and solutions like stop smoking, and they may have no idea that actually acupuncture can be used to help you stop smoking. And therefore, if your site has geared a page up to stopping smoking, again, maybe it's got a location, so if you're in the Shepperton area and you've geared yourself up as an acupuncturist with a service to help people stop smoking, then that becomes a landing page which could therefore rank more highly on the Google search results.
So how do you recommend to your customers to do this? Is this very much a case of a brainstorm? You sit down, big piece of paper, and you just keep writing until you get it right, or are there ways?
There are ways of researching. Google, for its AdWords, provides you with lots of tools to do research, and you can use those tools to start to get an idea. Obviously, Google is looking for you to use their AdWords services, but you can use a keyword tool within the AdWords suite, which helps you to get the search demand for phrases. So you get to find out things like whether beauty therapist is a better phrase to use than beauty treatments.
The worry that I've always seen, and when I've talked to a few people about this, is you can find keywords, but the issue that you sometimes have is that it's where you start from. It's the initial starting point. So, for instance, we were talking there about a beauty therapist. That may not be how you describe your business. So you're starting, shall we say, from beauty consultant, and the word beauty therapist doesn't come into your mind. So you're now trying to make keywords. Yeah. I mean, it's that.
The Google tool actually will help you with that, because you put the words in and it will give you the words that are similar to that are actually coming up in search results. So that's how you start to recognise that maybe the words you're choosing are not the words that actually everyone else is using, and therefore that's the place to start. So you can put words in like beauty consultant, and I'd expect that Google would actually recommend words like beauty therapist, and you'll see that the demand for those words is actually more. You know, it can even come down to very fine points, like I did a website for a cupcake company many years ago, and there are 10 times as many searches for cupcakes as there are cupcake. So just using the words cupcakes actually is a better improvement. Yes, people don't search for a cupcake. They search for cupcakes.
Because that's the way we talk about it.
That's why we talk about it. So they use the language that they talk in.
That's fascinating.
So, you know, although of course Google will take account of that, it's much better to use precisely the words that actually people are using. Being close is not quite as good. So it's a good way of doing it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, then, how important then is getting those keywords right?
It's probably a 10. You know, if you don't get the keywords right, if you haven't got the right keywords, you could be, you know, shouting from the rooftops about your business, but you're not using the words that anybody is interested in.
And which is more powerful? Cupcakes, cupcake. I like eating cupcakes. And I'm not being funny there. I mean, one's a long tail. I mean, you've already said that cupcakes, in that particular instance, is better than cupcake.
Okay.
I want to eat, or where do I buy cupcakes?
Absolutely.
Is that the better keyword phrase or long tail phrase?
If I've got an e-commerce site that sells cupcakes, then clearly a better phrase for me might be buy cupcakes. So it's another factor. When you're looking at keywords, you're looking at three things. Firstly, what's the demand for that phrase? So how many people are using the word cupcakes? Secondly, what's the competition like? Well, clearly the word cupcakes is quite vague as a term. It's not what we talked before about a long-tail keyword. So therefore, there are likely to be lots of sites out there for the word cupcakes. As soon as you start to get into words like buy cupcake, you'd be much more specific. Mm-hmm. And obviously, it's the third factor coming in here is, what is the chances of people using that phrase actually converting to a sale? Now, somebody using the word cupcakes could just be looking for a recipe. I might offer recipes and that might be helpful, but actually I want to sell cupcakes. So therefore somebody searching for buy cupcakes is definitely more my kind of customer, the sort of person I want to attract. So therefore I'm likely to get more sales from those words. So somebody needs to look at those three factors. One, is there lots of demand for it? Secondly, what's the competition like? And often where the demand is high, the competition is high.
Now, a lot of people don't seem to understand what Google actually does with a long tail phrase like that. Is it looking to see a sentence with the word buy and cupcake in it, or is it looking to see a combination of buy cupcakes. What's it looking for?
It's looking for both. What Google does with your web page is it indexes every single word on that site. And through a very complicated algorithm, it looks at the placement of those words, how close they are together, where they appear in sentences, where they appear in headings, and out of that it will determine the value it gives you in terms of the indexing power of that page for that term. So the art of good SEO is to make sure you put those words in the right places. Now, if the phrase you're aiming for is buy cupcakes, then it is very good to be able to try and use those words together and not separate them too much. Yes, you can have, on this site, you can buy lots of things, including cupcakes. The words are separated too far to give you a really strong SEO optimization.
I know we were talking about cupcakes and getting a little bit peckish just at the moment, but if you were constructing a sentence that would be optimized and would work, because I think this can be spread right across every industry and every product. You know, research the core word properly. But if you were putting together a sentence and we've got to put buy, and I feel a bit daft actually just going on about cupcakes, but buy and cupcakes, what would be an ideal? What would be in your mind's eye a good SEO'd placement of those words?
Well, I mean, you may have an overall heading on the page that talks about you can buy cupcakes. And then have maybe some sub-paragraphs which talk about buy cupcakes for christening, buy cupcakes for a hen party.
Oh, that's clever, yep.
And that way you get the words into other headings. It is always a tricky balance for any business to
Because
optimize.
can you go too far? Will Google go, you're having a laugh?
You can go
this
too
doesn't
far.
make English.
Yeah, if you always should have the end reader in mind. If you write for the end reader and it makes sense for them and it's a reasonable balance, then you're probably okay. If you've gone beyond that point, you're starting to spam that page with keywords, and you could actually have a negative effect on your ranking. So really think about the end user. Actually putting in headings which are made really clear to people about what those subheadings are all about, what I can expect to find in those, is actually useful to the end reader of that web page, because they scan pages. People don't read them. They don't read them from top to bottom at all. What they do is they scan them, and they're looking. And if they're thinking that I want to buy some cupcakes actually for a hen party, then they're looking for those words. Mm-hmm. So by giving them a subheading which says cupcakes for
opens up the flexibility, doesn't it? And it gives them more usage of the word. It's interesting as well. Well, that's should we say the keywords at the beginning. Now, looking at the descriptions that we've got here. And if I just go into that particular one, we're not trying to give them any particular promotion or anything, but we can see here we've got this one that says GDS web design. Now remember, the words I put in at the top were web design Shepperton, and working my way down here, if we go to GDS web design Shepperton, obviously they've put that as a keyword in there. What about this next piece of text that is here? The meta, is it the meta text that's called?
It's the meta description. So you've got two pieces there that are offered up, well, three in fact, with the URL as well. So you've got the website URL. So if we take it from top to bottom, the first bit is the title. It's called the meta title.
Right.
It's the bit that appears there on the Google search results, and also at the top of the page when you go into it.
So this is important to actually be designing or at least calling the pages in your web space that you're actually using your keywords in your description. Yeah,
so use them in the title, use them in the description, and use them where possible in the URL. So it's effectively, with my own
URL.
site we do.
Now, what's the
URL?
URL?
Is the green part there, which is actually the address. It's the web page address, and if you look in there, again they've got the word Shepperton, they've got the words web design.
So the worst thing in the whole world would be to have gdswebdesign.co.uk page 1.
Yes, and that's again a common mistake, particularly often in WordPress sites where people don't know how to configure them, or other content management systems again, which they don't know how to properly configure, so they don't get the control over those things, and then they end up with index page or page 139 or something like that. They've missed an opportunity to get the keywords in the actual URL of that page.
Well, if you just look at one of our sites, you can see here now, this is one of our programs. This is Business Connections Live number 39. So this was about customer satisfaction. And if you I don't know whether you can just see it, but up there in our URL for that page, businessconnectionslive.com, and there you can see customer satisfaction. So at least we got that there a little bit right as well. By the way, that's a great program if you want an opportunity to find out more. And don't forget, you can always subscribe to the channel as well, so we'd love you to do that. Incidentally, if you do want to subscribe, if you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, you'll see just here there's a small little button. If you'd like to press on that, just press on that. If you're watching it on iTunes, thank you very much indeed. You'll also find us as well now on Daily Motion as well. So we're just building the website on there as well. So you've got a whole host of different places where you can go to. Obviously, the place we'd like you to go to is straight to the website, which is www.businessconnectionslive.com. Sign up there. We've got a very special offer on the site, which may be of interest if you're a small to medium scale enterprise and you'd like to start using the power of video for your business. We've got something that's really quite amazing. So do go to the site, www.businessconnectionslive.com. So then, we've talked about the keywords. We've talked about where we've placed them in the meta text and also in the URL, which all seems very important. So what's the next place that we need to go?
It's really looking at your content of your page. So, for instance, I mean, just a similar exercise. If you put one of my local sites, if you put web design Rains Park, which is one of my local areas that I'm targeting, you will see this process work through.
So now, do you want to find that? I'll tell you what, just move that over here very quickly.
Let's do that.
Just find that very quickly. Now, just while we're finding that particular page, something that is quite interesting is the Business Networking Show. That's taking place on Friday the 19th of September. 8:30 start, so be there early. It's going to be the networking event. It's going to be a fantastic show, the Business Networking Show. We are one of the official media partners that are going to be up there. We're going to be broadcasting live. Some of the speakers that are going to be appearing at the show, we're going to be interviewing and talking to all the way through the show, in fact. Kicks off at 8:30, goes on till around about 6:30 or thereabouts. We're going to be there. It's going to be at the Wolverhampton Racecourse. We're going to be giving some of these tickets away. If you go to the website, we'll tell you how you get hold of yours. You can see here the price is £20 and the date is Friday the 19th of September at Wolverhampton Racecourse, the Business Networking Show 2014. Brad Burton's going to be there, a whole range of people in fact going to be there. Stephen Thomas, the writer of Business Networking for Dummies. There's a whole range of different networking organisations. BNI is going to be there. Probably the most important people that are going to be there, of course, are going to be the 4 Networking Group, which I know that you're also a member of 4 Networking, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely.
And it is a very powerful group. They've really got the whole networking thing sort of pretty much sewn up, haven't they? They know how it should be done.
Yeah, they get a right combination of kind of, as they call it, 50% social, 50% business, because at the end of the day, people have to get to know each other, they get to trust them, and then they do business, and that's how networking works.
Well, I trust you. We're going to trust you a little bit more now. Okay. You were looking on the website. If we just go back to the page again, just talk us through what you're showing us here on this particular page.
So this is just working through that process. Again, really show that we're doing the same thing here. You put in web design Rains Park, which is a local area to me in terms of where I'm going, and that's where I'm trying to get some business from. And you'll see that coming up first on the natural results is, again, the same principle we were looking at before. You'll see that in the meta titles, we have Rains Park Web Design, and then the brand name, which is Active Web Design. In the URL, I have a specific page, which is web design / Rains Park. So it's been constructed. And in the description, we have web design in Rains Park for small businesses. The important thing about the keywords appearing in this way is people are more likely to click on it because they've put those words in there. And if they don't see them, they're less likely to click on those.
Now, if we click on that, and it'll take it to your website, and we know what the criteria is, we're looking for Rainers Park, web design in Rainers Park. So we go to there, so we can see straight away. Now, this is something that I know you were mentioning to me before we came on. The word Rainers Park web design is in the largest heading font. They call it H1, don't they?
It's the H1 tag. I mean, it's a style issue as to actually how it's represented, but typically it tends to be styled as the larger font because it's the main title on your page, and you'd expect that. It's no different to creating a Word document where you'd have a main title and and then you'd have subtitles.
And when you're using the those particular tags in your web design, and remember, this can be everything from an HTML website all the way through to maybe a WordPress. There's a lot of businesses out there that are using WordPress websites. Got to be careful with them. I mean, they are wonderfully optimized anyway for the web, but the thing is, you got to know what you're doing. But more importantly, the heading that was there, the H1 heading, the larger of the fonts. If you're doing the same and you're into your topographic character recognition and the look of it, is H2 as powerful? The next one down, and H3, do they, or are they in sort of multiples of scale, less effective the smaller they get?
Yeah, I would normally recommend the H1 being the most important. You can only have one H1 on the page, so one main title. So therefore, that's going to be the key term for your page.
Oh, really? And what happens to if somebody feels like they want to have another one?
Then they will be penalised by Google for that.
Really?
It's a mistake that you can make, thinking that you can put in multiple H1s. So you need to avoid that, because actually, again, that's a negative as far as Google's concerned. It looks like you're trying to pull one over on Google by doing that, and therefore they wouldn't approve of it. So yes, you need to watch that. You can have multiple H2s, because that's your second level of heading. So again, you can use those, but again, use them with the user in mind. If you start putting loads of H2s in there with very little text, it would look again like you're spamming your website.
Now, there are tools that are out there that help you actually optimize your particular website. I think that if you're using WordPress, one of the popular ones is things like, is it Yoast?
Yeah, for WordPress there are a number of plugins that you can get which help to optimize your SEO. What they're doing is providing you tools to help you write your meta tags, put H1 tags on the page. Again, most good content management systems will provide that anyway, but some don't, and that's what you often find with some of these content management systems that are advertised as very easy to do your site, but they don't actually provide necessarily the optimization that you need. So although you can produce a website, it's not highly optimized in terms of SEO. But certainly if you're using WordPress, there are plugins out there that you can go and get, and they will give you access to some of these key tags that you can actually make sure you are properly putting in an H1 tag. It's not the same as just putting in a bit of text at the top, which is in large font. It needs to be the H1 tag. They
suggest in there that a typical site needs about, I think is it 350 words or thereabouts? Does that matter, or is that less than that isn't really enough text on the page to give it any meaning?
You should be aiming for that kind of text on a page, to give enough of the content, and make sure it is still focused on that topic.
Well, let's go back to your web page there, because we were looking at it. Rayners Park Web Design is the top heading, the H1 heading that we've got there at the moment. Let's have a look now at the actual page, and also probably more importantly the body text that's on there. So, local active advisor for web design in Rayners Park. Already we've got web design, Rayners Park. Well, in fact, that's very clever. We've got it in there within 2 lines, with an H1 and an H2 heading. We've got it in there twice. But what about I'm just going to go in a little bit more. What about the actual the body text that we've got there? How important is what you get in there, and how often should the words be repeated, or what are you trying to do with the body text?
Okay, so again, ideally you would have the words somewhere in that body text. So again, I've got them in the first sentence. The first sentence is more important than perhaps in the middle as well, so it's a good idea to get it there. Having the words at the beginning of the sentence is actually more important as well. Where possible, getting those words into bullet points as well, because bullet points are naturally short. Again, you get higher emphasis on the actual keywords by having them in that bullet point.
I've just been reminded, by the way, that it's not Rayners Park, it is Rains Park. So we better get that right. I tell you what, we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few moments' time. Absolutely fascinating area already. I mean, a mountain of information there when it comes to SEOing your particular website. If you are a small to medium scale business, if you're sitting there and you're watching this, you're thinking, I made that mistake. Sometimes I will use the H1 header maybe twice on a page. And already we've heard that what Google will do, Google will look at that and it will mark you down a little bit. You won't get the kind of response that you actually want to get from your particular website. Using the H1 tag at the top of the page, a lot of the different websites will actually sort themselves out when it comes to doing that anyway when you're using WordPress. Tell you what, it's a fascinating so far. Crikey, so much, and I feel like we've just scraped the surface to a certain extent. Let's talk a little bit now about social media. The very first program we had was Paul Bridgend and the lovely Nikki Creel. We were talking about social media, and we were talking about when you go to a networking event, how to maximise your return on a networking event. But it was Nikki and Paul, they joined us on Business Connections Live 1, and we're going to be having Nikki back on the programme in the very near future, just to give you a bit of a reminder of what they were talking about on that program, and maybe some ideas of what you should be doing with your Twitter account and making it work for your business. Here's Business Connections Live number 1.
When you do something like social media, it can take up a lot of time, and you need to be focused on what you want to get out of it for your business.
There are people making a lot of money out of social media. I'm not saying Nikki's making lots of money out of social media, but she's done very well through social media, and in fact I've been on 1 or 2 of Nikki's courses.
People do business with people then will know, like and trust, and you know, and that still applies. People haven't changed, the technology has changed.
We've kind of gone round in a bit of a circle. It all became a little bit impersonal with the internet to start with, and now we're going back to the fact that people want to know who they're dealing with. They want to know about the people that they're dealing with, and that's where the networking and the other areas that we're involved in come into play.
There's something called social proof in terms of how other people recommending it, but the thing is you can have 15,000 people who've liked a page, but you're not getting any business from them.
But there it is. How did Twitter for business success?
For Twitter, I always recommend that you commit at least 15 minutes a day, but that's probably all you need to do with Twitter. Is if you spend just 15 minutes a day, it can be very, very effective.
The social media thing is to take an interest in other people, and then they'll take interest in you.
If you say tweet at a certain time, you get together a group of people who will always be there, and you form a community. And where people like you, they will promote your stuff.
You know, selling to people at network is like throwing up all over them. It's a horrible sort of coarse, old-fashioned way of going about business to pitch yourself at people. So I always say to people at my groups that it's not, please don't sell to the room. What you're doing is you're going along to the event to ask for referrals. There
is that old story, isn't there, about being at a party in a dark room, winking at the most attractive girl. If she can't see you, she'll never know you're there.
Yeah.
For networking to work, I believe that it's got to be a regular thing. Going along to one meeting here, there or everywhere, dipping your toe in the water is not going to achieve a lot.
Choose one thing, learn how to use it properly. You can take all those skills onto the next platform, but quite often people say, oh, you need a Facebook page, you need a Twitter account, you need a Google Plus, you know, YouTube video, etc., and you get overwhelmed, and when you get overwhelmed, you don't do anything. Twitter may sound complicated, and I know there's a big fear factor with Twitter, but it's probably the simplest to come to grips with. You've got less than 140 characters.
So all I hear is, oh, I don't want to read about someone, what toothpaste they used this morning, but you don't have to read all of that. And some people, you know, one guy who recently signed up, he said, oh God, you've got almost 4,000 followers. How do you read all those tweets? Well, you don't read them, you just read the ones that you want to.
I need to follow you, don't I? I don't think I have.
I think I'm following you.
You're following us.
And I tell you what, I get terribly upset if people don't follow me back.
You take them outside. Fascinating programme. Nikki Creel coming back on the programme in the near future. She's written a book as well all about how to use Twitter in business. Fascinating read once again. Just tells you all the little bits and pieces that you should really know when it comes to using Twitter on a day-by-day basis and why you should be using it. My guest this evening is Mark Rouvray. He's talking about SEO from Active, or actually, as we said earlier on, it is the Surrey web designer.co.uk. We were talking about the way you actually use the words. We've talked about the keywords that are actually in there, talked about where they should be sitting, how they should be in your text, how you should be trying to make it English. Don't use the header more than once on a particular page. There are other ways of getting that core or that key keywords into your text, aren't
Yeah,
they? And
absolutely.
and that's by using the content and surrounding the content with nearly as introductions. Give us an example that we've got here.
Yes, okay. So it obviously varies according to the business and what you can actually get onto that page. So this is where the different types of businesses come into it. But obviously in my case, I can use examples of work that I've done for others in that area, and that allows me to put in my portfolio examples of other businesses in the area of Rains Park in this case, and that helps with the content. So you know, we can have a look at that on screen. So what we're seeing here, okay. Let's go back
So
to
we're just
the page.
looking. We're just looking there. So that was your website, and if we just look there, we'll see that as we go down the page, these are actually clients. These are websites of your clients who are in Rains Park.
That's right, and you'll see that that's enabled me to again use their name, but also their location here, which says Rains Park here. And then going on further, more about Rains Park Web Design Portfolio. People can see other examples, and even here we can see that this is a shop actually that I did a website for in Rains Park, selling furniture and home accessories.
So once again, it's that weight of the keywords that you're looking for.
It's a very natural way here of getting those into the text, and that's what you're looking for.
So testimonials are good then, using testimonials within the context of your web page.
Great if you can get people, again, people who are actually in that area. If you've done a service for somebody in that area, then try and get a testimony from them, because it gives you a natural way of them talking about whether you're a builder and you've just done an extension for a house in the Wimbledon area. You can talk about a 3-story house in the Wimbledon area, and then you get the client's name and the location again.
Now, we were talking earlier on about long tail words, long tail tag words or keywords. And I suppose the best place to use some of those long tail ones, so these are nearly like sentences in their own right, that people may tap in when they're searching, is to use those in blogs. And of course, should that blog be part of your website? Should it be an external site? And how much do you have to write in a blog? A lot of people are frightened off of doing blogs because they see it as a very high workload, huge commitment.
Yeah, I mean, you should really be looking for around about 500 to 600 words in a blog article. That would be the ideal to do that. But again, you're an expert in your field, so write. Don't forget that what you know, a lot of people don't know. So people are always afraid of what can I possibly write about. But there are lots of people out there looking for what you can provide them with. If you think about half a dozen things of the top things that are problems, issues for your type of clients, then that's a starting point for potential blog articles. What you might then do is see if people are actually searching for terms relating to that in the way we spoke about earlier, and that would help to hone a good title. And if you make that title as close as possible to what people are actually searching for, there's a reasonable chance that that will help to come up in a search on its own right.
And it's interesting, sort of saying 500 words is actually around about 2.5 minutes of speech. And what you could do, I suppose, you could do a piece to camera. You could use video here if you wanted to. Piece to camera, video piece, 2.5 minutes in duration, which when you think about it, isn't that long. And then transcribe that, so you've got the video and you've got the transcription underneath it. All of a sudden, you've got a very powerful tool,
That's right.
haven't you?
And the same principles we were looking at before apply to that blog page. Break it up into subsections with headings that relate to the key terms, and also provide links. The other important thing is to look for links that you can link back to content on your website. So if you've got a page that specifically then relates to that product or service, put a link in there talking about it. So if I'm talking about search engine optimization, I would use the word search engine optimization to link back to my page on the website. Google looks at links as another way of finding the keywords on your page. One little
How
test.
important are links back, before you
Well,
tell
I'll give
me
you
about the very important?
I'll give you a very simple example. If you, slightly bizarre, but if you type the words "click here" into Google, the most popular page for the words "click here," bizarrely, are the Adobe Reader. Now, that's not because their whole businesses are based on the words "click here." It's simply because pretty well every website that uses PDF documents will point to the Adobe Reader and says, to read this document, you will need the Adobe Reader. Please click here.
Very good. That's a clever piece of marketing, actually, isn't it?
So, you know, it's not really what they need to be found for, but it just shows you the power of the link. And if you can get everybody linking to your website, which would be the ideal, with your keywords, then you are certainly going to improve your SEO.
We've talked a lot about the introduction to how to SEO your website. What do you think, and I know once again we're running slightly over, but once again, what do you think the most important thing is that we've missed out perhaps, or have we really covered the most important aspects of making the fundamentals of getting your site SEO?
Well, we've got the fundamentals in terms of what I would call the optimizing your own website. So thinking about the keywords and optimizing the structure and the pages and the content. However, these days, unfortunately, it's not enough. You need to be promoting your website through social media, through other forms like blogging, putting more content out there across the internet on a regular basis, which is based on those key terms and linking back to your website. What that does is give you a much bigger presence on the internet, which Google is looking at, how all of that is interconnecting, and actually then Google starts to see you more as an authority on those subjects and therefore will raise you in the Google rankings. So yes, you have to have the fundamentals right on your website. That's part of the battle. And if you don't have those, you're not going to get anywhere. But beyond that, you do need to do the promotion, and that needs regular putting out of content, which is why a lot of the other people that you see you have on your program will talk about the content through social media, through blogging, through Twitter. It's all about adding further content around your website being your core marketing tool.
So the website, the core marketing tool, I don't know whether you've answered it or not, you probably have. Where should your blog live? Does it live off your website or does it live on your website?
The advantage of having the blog on the website means that you're regularly putting good content onto your website and updating it, and Google likes that. So it is an easy way of you keeping your website up to date and fresh. So therefore, I would normally advise people to have some of that content on the site. However, the advantage of also having other content on a separate blog, so I have my own personal markrouvray.me blog, and I will put information out on that, where I will then put articles and also link back to the website. That gives me the ability to put that further information out across the net. If you're only going to do one, I would start with your own site, but you definitely should be looking at putting more content out across the internet and not just totally focusing on your own website.
Now, the final thing then is we're going to ask you, if you don't mind, just to give us some of the takeaways that we need to remember. I mean, we really have we've scraped the surface here. There's so much more we could talk about. There are the things like breadcrumbs, which we never ever got to. What is a breadcrumb for those people that don't know?
It's one of those strange things that it comes from Hansel and Gretel, where the children left the breadcrumbs so they could find their way back. And it's still called that on websites because they're there to help you find your way back through the path of pages that you've actually come through. So breadcrumbs are usually used on larger sites so that if you've drilled down several pages, you can find your way back to one of the higher level pages.
And that's where it comes from.
And that's where it comes from.
Absolutely fascinating. I'll tell you what, I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard this evening. It's been a fascinating insight into just the beginnings of SEO. I think the thing that's been interesting about this is a lot of what we've talked about is actually fundamental to SEO. It doesn't really matter what Google have done recently, I would say. What we're talking here are the fundamentals of SEOing your website. You know, your tag words. Have you got them in the right place on your website? Have you got them in your text? Are you making certain that you're not spamming your own page with your tag words? Are you thinking about long tail tag words as well? Have you put together a blog recently? Are you doing a blog on a regular basis? How do you get content on there? Are you using content from recommendations and testimonials from your customers? They're just some of the different ways that you can actually help to SEO your site. And you are also looking for links back to your site, and it's no good just having links back from, you know, willy-nilly sites. So you're looking for sites that are actually well ranked as well, because what Google does, it says that's a well ranked site, it's a respectable site, it's well ranked, so therefore a link back from that site is better than a link back from a site that isn't ranked particularly well. So all that comes into account as well when you're doing your SEOing of your own website. And long term, get this right, what you can expect is you can expect, hopefully, more traffic to your site as long as it's of interest and it's actually what people are truly looking for. A fascinating insight into the whole area of SEO. It's all very well for us sitting here for a couple of moments telling people about this, but I would imagine before you tell us a little bit the 3 minutes takeaway, but the very last thing I would say to you is that you can give people all the tools. It doesn't mean that they're actually going to go build a house.
No.
So it's worthwhile customers knowing this is needed, but if they haven't got the time or the skills to do it, what can they do?
Well, I think it's always good to have some knowledge, because if you're not going to do it yourself, it at least helps you to find somebody that can do it for you, and that at least you're talking the same language. You know, otherwise you're in a situation of not having enough knowledge. It's a bit like having a car mechanic. You have to trust. If you know nothing about what goes on under the bonnet, you have to trust they're doing a good job. If you have some knowledge yourself, you can make sure that you understand the same language, and you can therefore check that they are talking the same language, what you'd expect.
Do web designers suck in through their teeth? Ooh, who wrote that for you then, mate?
I suspect most industries get a little bit of the old teeth sucking, yes.
Listen, we're going to ask you to do a little 3-minute piece straight down camera number 3 for us. That would be fantastic. Introduce who you are. Tell us what we should remember. Remind us who you are. If you're a business owner and you need advice on how to make your business more successful, then Business Connections Live TV is just for you.
Our leading industry experts cut out the guesswork for growing businesses. How to use social media, what to expect from your accountant, web design, SEO, and so much more.
Business Connections Live TV is here to give you the motivation you need to succeed.
How you doing? My name is Brad Burton. I'm the motivational speaker that everyone's talking about right now, and I'm on Business Connections Live. What a show! What a show! People, do check it out.
If you're struggling with Facebook and LinkedIn.
Most people that I meet are on LinkedIn. Virtually, you know, there's 14.5 million people just in the UK. I think the figures currently are 238 million people worldwide. But I would say that most of them don't really understand how to use it.
How to present your ideas more effectively.
Hello, I'm Philip Skinner, Shaw Walker Lees. A brilliant way to get message across. I'm actually thinking that we might switch away from our quarterly newsletter to do a video and get it sent through to staff and clients.
To generating leads and finding new business.
Hi, I'm Jim McLaughlin, Managing Director of business development company Axial. And I'd just like to say what a pleasure it's been to have the opportunity to appear on Business Connections Live.
Subscribe and be part of the Business Connections Live TV online community for free.
Business Connections Live TV every Wednesday, 6 p.m. GMT, or catch up on the Business Connections Live TV YouTube channel.
Make certain your business is connected with Business Connections Live TV.
Okay, so I'm Mark Rouvray from Active Web Design. We've been talking about SEO today. The key thing to think about really, as we started, was what are the key search terms for your business? That's where you need to start. If you don't know those, you don't know what you need to be found for, and you can't optimize your website. So spend a bit of time thinking about that. If you've already got a site, then review it and see where those keywords are placed and think about restructuring the site. If you don't have a site, you're in a good position because you can actually build from the bottom up with those key terms in mind. So that's the first thing to actually think about. And then you need to think about how you actually put the content together, which actually reflects those. Now, make sure you're not trying to do everything with your homepage. Think about landing pages specific to those key terms and actually gearing those terms up. Those pages are geared up then for those terms. Think about not only the placement, but the content. Think about how you can actually get content relevant to those terms, whether it's through testimonials, examples of your work, perhaps case studies, or further helpful information that relates to that subject. That's a great way of getting further information onto your site. Going beyond that, part of the battle is about getting it right on your site, but then beyond that, it's about promoting your website for those key terms and looking at where you can get those, whether it's in blogs or through social media, and making sure you're linking back to your website and the specific pages again for those key terms. There's 1,001 things really it takes to do a good SEO for your site, but the more of those that you can do, the better your SEO will be. So if you're doing it for yourself, then take a deep breath, take your time and do it over a long period of time. Don't think you can do it all in one go. It's something that takes time and it will take continual effort. things do change with the process for SEO in terms of the way Google handles it. So it is difficult to stay ahead of the game. So that's where obviously if you bring in a supplier for SEO services, then that's where you can actually gain from their knowledge of what's happening now and having somebody who's regularly going to do that for you. So Active Web Design are a company who operate right across the UK. They have advisors in all locations that you can find through the Active Web Design site, activewebdesign.com, or my own local service, the surreywebdesigner.co.uk, which is a site, as you've already seen, optimised for SEO purposes for my business. And we're providing local consultation to local businesses for all the net marketing services, whether it is a web design, SEO, or mobile or apps development.
Mark Rouvray, we've been looking at SEO on this particular program. Don't forget, next week's program, we're talking to Dee Blick. She runs the Marketing Gym. Dee is a marketeer who loves working with her small to medium scale business clients. Her everyday experience working with clients and generating sales inspires her public speaking and makes her credibility. She is a voice that can be trusted with a reputation for really sharing real case studies that bring her tips to life. Now, she's going to be speaking at the Business Networking Show in September. She's also going to be with us on next week's edition of Business Connections Live. And that wraps up this particular show. By the way, if you've loved the show, incidentally, and you've enjoyed what you've seen, you can have a show just like this one for your small business or your large business. We've got the virtual newsroom. It's dead easy. All you've got to do is contact us at businessconnectionslive.com, studio at businessconnectionslive.com, or give us a call on 01784 256 777. There's the email address. Ask for myself or for Linda Bazant. We'll explain how the virtual newsroom can work for you. You could have a program just like this one. Instead of sending out a newsletter, you could be sending out video. And if you put all the right keywords in and have a transcription below it, you're on to a bit of a winner with your SEO as well. Listen, until next week when we're talking to Dee, have yourself a great week. But from me and Mark, have yourself a great one. See you next week. Bye for now.